Welcome back to Slack Signal X. Today, urban legends. How they haunted all of us as Generation X children. When you're a kid, the world's a pretty dark place, and your imagination's like a flashlight. It's sweeping over the shadows, filling in the gaps in the dark corners and alleyways that you can't actually see down. I mean, every town had its haunted house. Every school had like a cursed locker. And every kid knew a guy who swore it was all true. Urban legends weren't just stories. They were like survival guides. Gen X grew up in a world without fact checkers, without Snopes, without a quick Google search to shatter illusions. We believed in what we were told because the alternative, the cold, indifferent reality, sometimes it was just as terrifying. So we whispered our warnings in hushed voices and passed them down to our friends like sacred texts. 1. The Vanishing Hitchhiker. It all starts in a similar way every time. A driver, alone on a deserted stretch of road, spots a figure on the roadside. A girl, maybe 16, standing in the rain, thumb out, face pale. The driver pulls over because it's late. It's too late to just leave someone stranded. She gets in, she doesn't say much, just gives an address somewhere a few miles up. And her voice is distant, soft. More like she's remembering instead of actually experiencing what's going on. So they drive in silence, and then without warning, poof, she's totally gone. Seat is empty, and then the air gets colder. Some say she was a runaway. Some say she died on this road years ago, hit by a driver who didn't stop. The thing about the Vanishing Hitchhiker is that she never stays gone for long. Someone else always sees her and picks her up, and the story gets told again and again. It's just a loop that never ends. Maybe that's why it sticks with us. The idea that the past never really leaves, that some people, some ghosts are still out there, just looking for a way home. 2. Bloody Mary. We all did it. Lights off, candles flickering. Group of kids packed into a cramped bathroom, whispering her name in the mirror. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. And then panic. Someone screams. The door flies open. We all spill into the hallway, laughing, shaking, secretly wondering if we just invited something ancient and angry into our homes. The legend of Bloody Mary was never about logic. It was about fear. It was about the razor-thin line between childhood dares and real terror. Some said she was a witch, burned at the stake. Others claimed she was Mary Tudor, Queen of England, thirsty for vengeance. Whatever she was, she belonged to us. To every kid who tested fate with a whisper in the dark. 3. The calls coming from inside the house. Before cell phones, before caller ID, before horror movies became self-aware, a babysitter alone in a house too big for comfort. The phone rings, a voice on the other end breathing, whispering, "Have you checked the children?" She hangs up. The calls keep coming. Finally, the operator traces it. The call's coming from inside the house. That was a perfect storm of suburban dread. The idea that safety was an illusion, that the danger didn't lurk in the woods or the bad part of town, it was already inside. We were latchkey kids, raised on microwave dinners and unsupervised afternoons. We knew what it meant to be alone in a house full of shadows. Maybe that's why this one just cut so deep. 4. The Satanic Panic. To us in the 80s, everything was dangerous. Dungeons and Dragons, that was a gateway to hell. Heavy metal, definitely a one-way ticket to demonic possession. Even innocent cartoons like Care Bears and Smurfs were accused of harboring dark messages, hidden like landmines in our Saturday mornings. The Satanic Panic was an epidemic of paranoia. TV preachers and news anchors fed the flames, spinning stories of secret cults, ritual sacrifices, and suburban covens hidden in plain sight. Kids whispered about evil messages in Led Zeppelin songs, about the kid in another school in another town who played the record backwards and totally lost his soul. And we believed it, because the real world was getting scary. Serial killers, kidnappings, Iran-Contra. It was easier to believe that evil had a face, a soundtrack, a dress code, that we could spot the devil if we just looked hard enough. 5. LSD stickers. We were warned. Teachers, parents, cops at school assemblies, they all said the same thing. Someone offers you a sticker, don't take it. They said drug dealers were targeting kids, handing out colorful tattoos and stickers laced with LSD. Mickey Mouse, Superman, bright cartoon designs soaked in hallucinogens that would melt into our skin and fry our brains. One touch and we'd be lost, tripping so hard we'd never find our way back. The warning spread fast. It was an epidemic of paranoia. Schools sent home flyers. News station ran stories. It didn't matter that there were no actual reports, no documented cases. It was just the fear. The fear was totally enough. And maybe that was the point. The 80s and 90s were an era of moral panic, and drugs were public enemy number one. Crack, heroin, acid, the boogeyman of every parent's worst nightmare. The LSD sticker myth wasn't about protecting kids. It was about control, about turning fear into obedience. But here's the funny thing. Real drug dealers, they don't give away free samples. That's not how business works. We were afraid of the wrong things, chasing shadows while the real dangers were closer than we thought. 6. Razor blades in the candy. Every October, parents warned us, check your candy, razor blades and apples, needles and Snicker bars, poison pixie sticks handed out by some shadowy lunatic with a grudge against trick-or-treaters. It was the ultimate suburban nightmare, that something as innocent as a night of costumes and sugar could turn deadly. News reports stoked the flames, showing x-rays of supposedly tampered treats. But here's the thing. Almost none of it was true. The few documented cases of poison Halloween candy, they weren't the work of strangers. They were inside jobs. But the fear stuck. It became a tradition to this day. Parents still cut open Milky Ways, still scan for hidden threats, because once a fear gets inside of you, it's hard to shake. 7. Clowns in the woods. Long before the creepy clown sightings of the 2010s, we had our own version. Stories of clowns lurking in the woods, in vans, and sewers. Sometimes they kidnapped kids. Sometimes they just lurked around and watched. I mean, John Wayne Gacy didn't help. He's a real-life monster in grease paint, blurring the line between legend and reality. But even before him, clowns were unsettling. Something about the fake smile, the exaggerated features, like they were pretending to be human but weren't quite getting it right. We whispered about them on the playground, eyes darting towards the tree line, half expecting a painted face to emerge from the shadows. And deep down, we all knew we weren't afraid of clowns. We were afraid of what they might be hiding. 8. Why we believed. Gen X was raised on the flickering glow of late-night horror movies, on the static hiss of urban legends passed from friend to friend like contraband. We didn't have the internet to debunk them, didn't have a fact-checking safety net, and maybe that's why they felt so real. But here's the thing. These stories weren't just about scaring us. They were about teaching us. Don't pick up strangers. Don't trust every phone call. The world is dangerous, and the people in it, they're not always what they seem. Maybe that's the real reason these legends stuck with us. Because deep down, we know they weren't just stories. They were warnings. And sometimes the scariest thing of all is how often warnings turn out to be true. Thanks again. Like, subscribe. Don't be a poser.